Executive Order number 202.1. Today's public hearing and regular meeting to follow is being held in the District Commission building and live streamed through Zoom and YouTube. I'll now pass the public hearing to Louise Lynch.
Thank you and good evening. Provide a quality education for our students and who themselves are lifelong learners. Our welcoming and supportive school environment provides a student-centered, standards-based curriculum that is relevant, challenging, and instills an appreciation for learning that will last a lifetime. So we're going to start off with some educational initiatives, things that we've accomplished this year. This shows some of what the budget funds. We're going to start off with a couple of elementary initiatives, K through 5. Handwriting Without Tears is an integrated print and digital approach to assist with the development of print and cursive writing utilized primarily in kindergarten. Project Lead the Way, we keep hearing those words, so they're a continuation. So for both SAS and GIS, we purchased updated modules to continue this initiative. And then for our STEAM program at GIS, we have 3 new 3D printers. At the middle school level, we have added diversity to our instruction. It's been integrated in all levels of the curriculum, and we've also got a bunch of newly released titles focusing on diversity and multicultural featured at the library at the C.J. Hooker building. We've also got newly acquired Fast Forward, which is an adaptive reading and language program designed to identify weaknesses to improve foundational language skills, phonemic awareness, decoding, sight word recognition, vocabulary, grammar, and comprehension. And also at the middle school, we have System 44, which is an adaptive technology and teacher-led instruction that focuses on phonics, fluency, spelling, comprehension, and writing skills. And lastly, at the high school building, we have some increased assessment tools, including STAR, which is a universal screening tool and growth assessment tool administered to 9 through 12 students 3 times a year, specific to math and ELA. Also Formative, which is a classroom teacher tool to design and administer formative assessment, which can be either used remotely or in person, providing immediate student feedback. And then we have an expansion of our SUPA classes, which we've done for several years now. And the new 4 courses that we've added there are Public Policy Analysis, Human Development and Sport, Gender Literature, and Intro to Creative Nonfiction. Now we'll get to some numbers, please. Proposed budget. Now, this is a comparison of the 21-22 budget as it compares to the 2021. And I'm not going to read this line by line. I'll concentrate on the variances in the far right-hand column. Equipment is relatively constant year to year. Contractual fluctuates slightly. As you look down, the most significant increases are in salaries and employee benefits. And when you think about the fact that 70% of our budget is made up of people, I say this in other places in other years, we don't create widgets, we grow human minds, and it's really all about the teaching and the staff. So that's really no surprise. But the overall budget increase is the 2.7 million, and our budget is at $78,811,376. Now I'll take you, we'll do a little bit of a 5-year look back so we can look at historical budget growth. If you look over the previous 5 years, you'll see the annual increases range from 2.3 to 3.87. There's a number of factors that contribute to those different percentages. In 2021, you can see, I look back and that was our first year of new debt. So that increased the budget and was a driver. Also, other drivers of the budget are benefit costs, staffing change, multitude of other factors based on what's going on in the year. But I thought it was interesting to see a 5-year look back there. Now I'll take you a little bit deeper into some of those drivers. And you'll have benefit costs on this historical budget driver slide. Now, many of the benefit costs are a direct correlation to salaries. So for example, if I talk about FICA and Medicare, we know that that's about 7.65% of wages. So if wages are increasing, certainly FICA and Medicare are. Also pension costs, but there's another factor with pension costs. Sometimes the wages go up, but the rate may go down. It depends on, again, a variety of factors. There's a 5-year blend for both of those pensions, and there are 2 pensions. Health insurance is a little bit different. Health insurance can increase based on the rising cost of claims. It can also increase if there's a significant number of retirees. As you know, we have retirees leave with a plan, most of our retirees, and then we replace it when we replace that employee with a new plan. So I'm going to just give you some historical information based on retirees. In 15-16, we had 16 retirees. In 16-17, we had 15 retirees. 12 in 17-18, 11 in 18-19, 8 in 19-20, and 28 in 2021. So that affects the next year. If all newly hired employees replacing retired are by contract entitled to health insurance, that could be new money close to $800,000 if they all choose a family plan. It's all dependent upon what the contract says and what they utilize. Now, we also know that when we hire a replacing employee, it often has a lower salary, and that generates breakage. Next slide is debt service. So this is the district's debt, and I've broken this down into the 4 categories here. Capital debt, which is construction. Construction bans, which is short-term debt, something you do as a temporary measure. And then the bus bans are what we utilize to purchase our replacement bus fleet, and then the public library. The public library is different than the other 3 because, of course, that's a revenue on our revenue side of the budget. So you can see, and again, I'm not going to go line by line, but you can see our debt is on average about $2.7 million each year. Of course, when the old debt was coming off in 18-19 and the new debt was coming on, there were some fluctuations there. But of course, those are also items that affect the budget amount either upward or downwards. Okay, the next slide is proposed revenues. So we talk about a balanced budget. We create our expenditure side, and then we have to balance it to the existing revenues. So in 21-22, one thing that you'll notice right away is that the taxes are at a 0 increase over the prior year. Certainly that's noteworthy because I don't think I've ever seen that in my career. So it's something that's unusual this year. And I think it's noteworthy to say that the statutory increase of the tax cap formula allowed the Goshen district to raise taxes by 1.1 million, but we've decided to leave those flat this year. You'll also see a significant increase in state aid, and this is due primarily to the funding that the state has set aside to fund the existing law. We've talked about current law and what it should be for probably close to a decade now, but now they're actually starting to fund the law the way it should be. But there is a slight decrease. I want to draw your attention to fund balance, and that's appropriated fund balance. So we've dropped that by about $80,000. Now, I'm going to go over each one of these revenue categories in a little bit more detail. So if you have questions, I'm happy to entertain those as we get to these revenues. The next slide is the tax levy limit. And I thought it was worthwhile to show you the formula so you can see what the formula permitted in the way of raising taxes. So the formula allows for the prior year levy, which is the 54 million. Then there's a growth factor set by the state for all of the districts in New York State. And then you add in prior year pilots, and you'll see a little bit further down, you back out those pilots. And then you do the same, but it's in reverse with the capital levy. And what that is that's the portion that's picked up by the local taxpayers. It's the net levy. So I'm going to draw your attention again to the top, which is the 54 million, and the bottom, which is the 55 million. And it shows you that the district could have levied taxes by $1,139,000. But due to a confluence of circumstances, we've had rising pilots slightly, we had rising state aid, we are not increasing taxes. They are flat. The next slide is payments in lieu of taxes. And I don't want you to get caught up in all of the detail here. I'm hoping that I can help you see the way these pilots are going to impact the local Goshen taxes. So if you look at 2021, what you'll see is at the bottom, we had about 853,000 in taxes. And then we got to 21-22, and it was $1,047,000. And if you look across the bottom line, you'll see that number rise. Just a little bit of education on how this slide is set up. If you see a black bar, and I'll show you the CRH Realty, what that means is in 22-23, that whole assessed value will go on the levy and on the rolls, but the pilot will come off. So we'll be getting our money in taxes instead of a pilot. So some of these bars you see disappear in the slide. Some of them go way out before the bar comes in there. And this is really, I've really tried to simplify this slide. A lot of these pilots are established so that one year they're funded at maybe 5%, maybe 10% the next year. Sometimes they're funded at the same number, sometimes they're funded at a different number. So it's pretty complex, but this slide is intended to show you the impact to the taxes. And I'll take it to the next page, which is a chart that I tried to use to illustrate this. And this chart, I want to put all sorts of disclaimers on it because this chart assumes so many factors, just so you can really get the picture. But what's most important to me, and I hope you'll all see this, is that tiny little red bar at the bottom. You can see it over years, how that becomes a greater portion of the total. Now, when I say I've made all these disclaimers, I've assumed that the levy wouldn't, or that the budget wouldn't change and the levy wouldn't change, because there's just too many factors. And I really was just trying to show you that over the course of time, the pilots will pick up a larger portion of those two revenues. And now I'm going to move along to state aid, and I'm going to call it the formula in capital letters. So what's here is 17-18. You know, we can look at the first column, which is what the base was. Now, if we look at the right-hand column in 17-18, we can see that Goshen should have got a lot more money. Same was the case in 18-19, 19-20, and 20-21. But in 21-22, you can see they're starting to fund a lot more of the formula. So we talk about this $2.6 million in new money. There's some different ways that they're analyzing this data, but you can see the bulk of that is represented between the center column of aid funded from lines 2021 to 21-22. And if the formula continues to be funded, so we have, you know, full phase-in foundation aid, you can see we're going to get really healthy increases in the next 2 years, amounting to almost an additional $7 million. I'm real optimistic that the state will be able to keep their word there, and we don't have an elimination adjustment like we've called it in past years. But right now, this is what they're alleging or stating, that we're going to be fully funded in 3 years. So you can see how that would be helping offset our revenues in future years. The next slide is fund balance and reserves. And I think fund balance is just a confusing topic for a lot of people. The statutory limitation to unassigned and available fund balance, which is the green column at the bottom, is 4%. So if there's some kind of catastrophic event or emergency, that's the money we have to use. The rest of that money in all those different columns, while it is a type of fund balance, it's not truly available for whatever we might need it for. And I'll go through the categories. The blue, if you know anything about modified accrual accounting, the blue is called non-spendable or prepaid expenses. So when we make the district's premium for health insurance in June for the month of July, we have to consider that to be a reserve, because we can't direct expense it because we're based on modified accrual. So that money is really already spent. By the time we get to July, it's really already spent. And then all of those purple fund balances are really designated for a very specific use. And I think that puts the district in a very solid financial position. We have a capital project. You can see we have 3.9 million. We've had some issues with unemployment, and we've been concerned about, layoffs, people not working. So we've upped our unemployment reserve. We also have a reserve for ERS and TRS, but these are very targeted, very specific things. If there's some significant rate fluctuation and the annual budget can't handle the needs of that fluctuation. And lastly, the pink or mauve area is already obligated. So when we roll over at the end of the school year, let's say we have agreed to purchase, I'll just use this as an example because it's significant and I've seen it happen. Let's say we do a bid for blacktopping or some kind of construction, but the contractors can't start until the children are born. We're going to issue that purchase order, but it really becomes a next year expense, but those dollars carry forward. So that's also obligated money. But so I guess the most important part of this slide is, focusing on the fact that we do have 4% in unassigned and available. Next slide is the proposition on the ballot. And this is our school bus fleet replacement plan, where we have proposed to replace 8 buses, 4 30-passenger buses, 3 66-passenger buses, and 1 7-passenger bus for a total of $652,000. And as I've said before, what we do is we purchase those vehicles, then we go out and we do a 1-year borrowing instrument for the cost of the buses, and we pay that off 20% each year, and we net it against the transportation aid we receive towards it. I'm going to dive out of finances and talk about universal pre-K, unless there's any questions about any of that. So Mr. Carter and Mr. Connor and I have all been evaluating this universal pre-K allocation that was on our state aid run. That allocation was for a total of $307,800 for year 1. And there's a lot of information to be garnered, and we really are really evaluating what are our options. But initially, what we're told is that's an allocation of $5,400 for 57 student slots. Now, I'm not going to necessarily read these in order, but we know that our class size for the last 10 years has ranged between our incoming class size, 175 to maybe 240, 250. So we're estimating there could be around 175 4-year-olds. They would need to be 4 years old, just like our incoming class by December 1st of each year. So if we were to get 57 slots, if we didn't want to fund the difference of the general fund, we would do a lottery, which is what many of the surrounding districts do. They do a lottery and you pick so many slots. Year one for Goshen, because we haven't had this program in the past, would require a 180-day, 5-hour-a-day program, 5 days a week. Options are we could house it in district. It's very interesting, but you can't use any of that money for building improvements. You can use it for programmatic needs, teaching. You can't use it for busing or building needs, is what we've learned. But we could do it in-house if we had space, or we could collaborate with other eligible non-secular pre-K programs. And that's based on New York State Ed Law 3602E. Everything that I've read about this says that it can't be just that 307.8 that's given to you by the state. It has to be a local share as well. And what we're learning is everybody does that a little bit different. Sometimes, the local share might be for administrative oversight, or it might be for transportation, but if there's any recipes for how that could be funded. And we are exploring all those. So application deadline is 7/31, and there is some oversight required. And to be honest with you, if you have any questions about that oversight, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Carter, because I haven't found too much on that yet. Any questions on that?
When is that decision to be made?
So the application, it states that the application is due by 7/31, and that comes to us as populated in the business portal. So that application will be filled out and submitted to the state.
Does that mean we got to have a decision which way we're going and who we're going with by what date? If we got to submit that by the 31st.
So there are certain processes that we have to follow. I was going to report on that. I could do it now if you'd like.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, so the director of the early learning program at NICEAD, his name is Jason. I have an appointment with him on Thursday morning to have a one-on-one Google Meet, to get all of my questions answered so that we understand exactly what we need to do, when we need to do it, as this will be our first time since I believe the early 2000s in establishing and running a UPK. With that being said, I am aware that, we do have to put public notice to get RFP. And then at that point, we have to work with interested agencies in the competitive process. And what that means truly, I have to iron out, which is my intent on Thursday. I have had multiple conversations, even to today, with colleagues that are familiar with their programs. But truth be told, many of them are doing the monitoring portions because those were previously established and long-standing. So I feel like after Thursday, we will certainly have the ability to, approach this in a very systematic manner, get everything out procedurally correct. But we do have to meet and discuss because, of course, there are board decisions to be made. So, my intent is to have this meeting on Thursday, to meet with Mr. Connor and Ms. Lynch, and then share every ounce of information that I can with the board so that we can make the best decision possible as far as what the program will look like, what monies we will spend, if there are any additional overhead costs, of course, in addition to the $307,800, and then we can move forward. If you recall from our last meeting, we had talked about a lottery system. So I am aware, that June primarily, especially like around the third week of June, is a good time to get into the lottery if you do work with outside agencies primarily to house and implement your UPK. So we do want to get moving, but of course, as you know, with RFP, you've got a 14-day notice, and then the meeting at which point everyone presents, their bids. So that is a process that we undoubtedly have to follow correctly. Additionally, as far as the monitoring, there is curriculum that has to be followed. Of course, we had mentioned that last time. There are site visits. You have to ensure facility, quality of program, safety for children. You have to have the appropriate ratios. You have to make sure that you have properly certified teachers, teaching assistants, and if not, there are 5-year plans that must be in place to achieve the status of properly certificated. So there are a multitude of things that have to be done through the monitoring process, which would probably be monthly, either once per month or twice per month. But the goal, of course, is to establish a very good rapport with those providing the service and to be collegial, to share our professional development opportunities. I am aware of curriculum, that we can use to reach our standards, to reach our next gen standards. So there's a lot that goes into it, and hopefully, you're comfortable with the fact that we've been working diligently to acquire the information and to move forward. And hopefully we can share more solid information with you after Thursday.
Okay, thank you. Question? You?
No, I was
No,
finished
Oh,
presentation.
I had a question. You done? You want to finish first?
No, go ahead.
No, good. I'm not pre-Cal. You finish, then I'll ask.
Mr. Carter, can you leave your mic on for Ms. Lynch? We're having a hard time picking you up here because I don't have the sound from up.
Okay.
It is on.
Board of Education election, there are 6 candidates running with 3 votes. Jason Pucci, Shannon Johnson, Judy Green, Martha Bogart, Joe Connell, and Billy Castellane. And then we have our high school seniors there with our vote date. So it's 2 weeks, and as we've repeated, it is an in-person or by absentee ballot, as it has been most years other than last year. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just to state it publicly here tonight, tax levy 0.
Tax levy 0.
Tax levy 0 we will not be able to tell anybody what the tax rate will be until the town sets their education rates, basically.
Yes, yes. So the 3 factors are state equalization rates. They don't come out generally until the end of August. And I'd like to believe they're going to remain relatively constant, but that's really up to the state. And then assessed values. 2 factors, used to be 3 factors. State aid was the 3rd factor. But so the states give us in the local townships give us in early July the taxable assessed value. And if there's growth there, we could very likely see tax rate decreases.
Correct. And based on what's going on in our area, I think there's a good chance we could see tax rate decrease in certain towns.
I think the same, but
Depends on where you live.
Yes. I mean, listen, we just talked about the slide on the tax cap, and you can see that the state gave Goshen, and this is a correlation indicator. They call it tax-based growth. It was over 1%, and it was one of the higher ones in Orange County. So that indicates that there is growth here. So long as there's building and taxable assessed value growth, that would, give us a larger base to levy the same taxes. Do you remember that? What year in the curriculum is that, where you start doing your proportions and you think about, the bottom number changing? So yeah, so there is a strong indicator of that. And the other thing that I want to point out is we do also have the 5 o'clock transportation run. It is in this budget. It's another significant add.
I just want to roll to capital reserve. That's 3.9 million currently.
Yes,
What is the 5 million cap?
I believe that's correct.
Something the board will have to look at next year, because obviously we're looking into our air filtration systems and air handlers, and
Let me confirm that for you if you don't mind, because I want to make sure. Usually, every so many years we have a new reserve. So there may be a rolling reserve. I would just like to look at that and confirm that for you, but it certainly is something to consider.
But I think we would need a proper division to approve that, won't we? A new reserve or increased reserve?
To
right?
grow that above the 5 million, you would need a proposition.
Okay.
Projected for this year.
Well, this is such an unusual year. There will be unspent funds, and we certainly could put in there what we can and max it out. But I don't have that tight of a number yet.
I think based on what we're gonna need as far as air handlers and building, just general building maintenance, it's probably gonna be more than 5 million. So I think it's something that we need to plan for, look forward and start planning for. Any other questions for Louise? Nope, I think we're good.
Great, thank you.
I think we can close the public hearing. Can I roll right into the business portion of the meeting? Okay. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the members of the Board of Education for today, Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. Next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of meditation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is the Board of Education acknowledges the Treasurer's Report for February 2021. Do we have any privilege? No. I know there's been some, I know we don't have any official privilege of the floor, but there were some things out there. I think universal pre-K is on a lot of people's minds, so we appreciate that update. Still get questions in the community about face masks and social distancing as states start to open up a little bit, and there's dates out there that the governors used and mayors have used and things like that, but we're still following New York State education law, and we do not set that. So we have to follow their restrictions, so we can't say no mask or no social distancing or anything like that. Just want to make sure that was clear. If we had that power, it'd be a different story. Another question out there maybe that Superintendent Connor can look into and Mr. Carter is the plexiglass. I know there's been some concerns from the students and teachers about a glare. As more and more we get into having the windows open and sunnier days, maybe there's a policy we can look into some flexibility there.
Will do.
And then I don't know if you could give us, I just thought of this tonight, an update on CJ Hooker. I know it's the only building we do not have open 4 days a week. Is there any movement on the restrictions on the 6 foot from the state or from the county? Or is that still in place?
Still in place, and what we plan to do, I know Jim Freeze, our buildings and grounds assistant superintendent, is looking into tents. So in the event that they do relax, that middle school, high school, 6 foot social distance, why we will be able to accommodate more children. So we're still looking at tents and the possibility of that. So as we gain more information, we'll certainly bring it to the board.
Okay. That was my president's report, by the way.
Not bad.
Forgot to say president's report. Next on the agenda is the legislative update.
I will be attending the OXPA meeting tomorrow night.
Thank you, Martha. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Mr. Connor.
Okay. Thank you, President Pucci, members of the board, and community members out there. I do have some information to share with you tonight. First of all, one of our high school staff members, Jonathan Rediker, along with some of his staff, did want to announce tonight, you all have this information in front of you. TEDx is coming back after missing it last year. We will, the information's going out there. It's June 5th, 2021. Right now, we're up to 200 that you can have in an auditorium, socially distanced. So we're looking at the high school auditorium as a place to have this. And tickets and information, I believe, is forthcoming. So,
TEDxGoshen.com.
TEDxGoshen.com. Thank you, Mr. Reddick. Also pleased to announce that in my conversations with the principals, especially since our last board meeting, everybody's ramping up for the end of the year. Schedules are looking busier and busier. I know I received a little nudge from my secretary earlier today, and that I'm asking the principals to please get that information down to us so we can get it out to all of you and also the community as well. But, there's really about 6 weeks and a lot of programs will be coming together. So look for that information on our website, but guys are doing a great job. I'd also like to report that on May 10th, we're having a meeting right here with probably 12 or 14 of our cabinet members, and that's to talk about our summer school program. And pleased to inform you that I know they're already working on these programs, but we really need to get everybody in the same room. Everyone from transportation, which will transport kids. We're looking at breakfast programs and lunch programs. There's going to be a lot going on, and we plan to offer a very extended learning model. So as that information rolls out, and I'm looking forward to Monday meeting with all the folks, we should at the next board meeting have that information to share with the board. Also too, about once a week, maybe no less than certainly about once every 12 days, the Orange County superintendents, we meet. Our chief school officer for BOCES, Orange County is Bill Heck, and he meets from time to time with the Commissioner of Education. He was told not to expect any guidance or information from the state education department regarding what happens, what it looks like in the fall of 2021 until the end of July. So quite honestly, we're all scrambling. We're planning to try and improve what we're already doing. President Pucci mentioned tonight about the middle school. We're going to keep looking into tents and other possibilities, but we're not going to get much help from the state education department until probably late July. And we all know, you got 5 weeks and then you're starting up, but we're looking at what we're doing now and how well it's being done and what we can do to improve on that. But I'm sure you'll be receiving lots of information, sometime in July or near the end of July. What else do I have to report? It's also a very good possibility that even though we want everyone to come back, I think we all know that going forward, there will be a percentage of our student body that will remain remote. It's a hot subject, hot topic around the state. People are saying, look, schools are open, everyone's back. But I don't believe that that's ever going to be the case. I think that there will always be a part or percentage of our student body that people will want to stay remote. In our conversations with superintendents, K-5, what I'm about to say, is a possibility that if we have a handful of students from every district, K-5, that want to remain remote, how can we do that on a regional level where a teacher, 2 teachers or 3 teachers might service a grade, and that's all he would do is work specifically with remote students. This would be a tremendous help and aid to our classroom teachers because it's no easy balancing act trying to teach a class and at the same time, make sure your remote students are getting what they need to get as well. That's a different game and it's a different challenge at the middle school, high school, because now you've got kids moving all over. And for a number of reasons, it's just a much bigger challenge. We're going to see what we can do. The biggest challenge at the middle school, high school is we all have different bell schedules. And it doesn't sound like much, but if our neighboring district, Middletown, starts 3 minutes later than us, and say someone 10 miles down the road starts 5 minutes earlier than us, now how do you do that remote scheduling? Who's teaching what? When do those kids? Scheduling becomes a real difficult task. Elementary, you got them all day long. They're not going anywhere. You can work with them. I have to be honest with you, as superintendents, not a choice that we want to go with, but we'd like to see all our kids back. We think socially, mentally, it's the best for all kids, but I'm not sure how much play we're going to really have with that. Let's see. There is also a lot of discussion again about this ransomware, the dark website and how some districts are being, not in our area, but people are really taking districts hostage. So I know that one of our board members, Michael Lorenzo, he has talked about this, and our technology people are working with plans to try and prevent that from happening. As you know, a couple of our districts had some issues here a few years ago, but it seems to be surfacing again around the United States. So we're going to take every effort and every precaution to make sure that someone can't get into our website and begin making demands on us. APPR, there's a bill circulating. I don't mean to steal Mr. Carter's thunder on this, that's circulating on the table and most likely to be dropped for this year. Nothing definite yet. I don't know, Mr. Carter, if that's something you're going to allude to or speak to, but I'm only hearing that it might be dropped. Sir?
You're good.
Okay. Other than that, I couldn't be more excited about what's going on in our building. Our people are really going the extra mile. The teachers are. This is Teacher Appreciation Week, by the way. And I'd like to publicly thank all our staff for the great job they're doing. Also our administrators, that's all part of that same team. So obviously they get the tools, the resources, and the support from all of you that are sitting around the table. But the truth of the matter is they're in there every day. And those of you that might know folks that are teachers in our classrooms, they're not just going in and reporting in at a time and checking out, that these are long, arduous days. And I think our people have done a fabulous job. So I will throw this out to the buildings, just an FYI. Thanks to Louise, Jason, Carter, Louise Lynch, and Superintendent. Why, you'll have lots of bagels, cream cheese, and butter waiting for you tomorrow. So with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Just a quick semi-request here. I think as we get towards the end of the school year, with all the activities and ever-changing rules and everything, maybe we can have the administrators starting to come back in,
That would be great.
either in person or via Zoom.
Yeah,
Maybe the directors as well.
I think they'd like that too.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful for us to have conversations here. 'Cause I think we're going to try to, with things changing so rapidly as far as reopening and things changing, maybe there's things we can do that we can help as a board.
Yep. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Assistant Superintendent for Business Report, Louise Lynch.
Thank you. I just have a couple of items that we are expecting. One is at your next board meeting, you should have a draft of the
Internal audit report. We had that audit work done recently and we are awaiting that draft. And just as a reminder, we are still awaiting guidance for all that federal aid that we've been promised. I'm still looking for stuff and I'm very surprised I haven't seen much yet, but we will keep you posted of any updates on that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, Personnel, and Technology, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Pucci. Good evening, everyone. So the bulk of the report was an update on UPK. So I think we got out as much information as we can at this point in time. Just a couple of brief reminders. We do have our AP exams at Goshen High School coming up beginning on Thursday. And again, we have an AP exam on Friday. So just the season for AP. Also, starting today, we administered our 3-8 state tests in math. CJ Hooker will administer on Thursday. GIS went today, and that makeup window goes through 5/14. And again, everything is computer-based. So our administrative team and a few individuals that have really assisted with programming that system, just wanted to say thank you for taking that on. It certainly is a lot of work. So once again, thank you. Mr. Connor had mentioned a couple of things about moving forward into next school year regarding remote learning and possibilities. So we do have a meeting coming up with BOCES, with a lot of the area assistant superintendents to discuss possibilities through BOCES to offer remote learning moving forward as we enter next school year. So again, it's just to discuss possibilities, what BOCES may be able to do to help us out. Somewhat of a planning meeting, if you will. Just wanted to make you aware of that. Also, on the heels of a few things that Mr. Connor had mentioned, we are continuing with our fishing campaign here. Had a great discussion this morning with Jim Sterrett and John Redeker about some of our statistics. So, it does continue, and we're having a great response in, people successfully avoiding these campaigns. However, of course, as you would imagine, there are a few that do click the buttons and the links, and there is that education component that they are completing. Those that have not completed it thereafter are receiving emails with friendly reminders. And truly, it's all about educating our faculty and staff members across the district to avoid such things as massive takeovers and ransomware and things of that nature. So we're doing our best to be diligent with that. Hopefully you can take comfort in that. And finally, as it is Teacher Appreciation Week, I just wanted to say thank you to all of our teachers and clinicians in the building for all of their hard work and efforts. Starting, of course, March 13th last year, moving into everything that we've got going on today. Our teachers, our clinicians and support staff have just been tremendous in what they've been doing, offering, working at day in and day out. Tremendous efforts across the board. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. While we're on that topic, I think the Board of Education also would like to thank the GTA and all their staff members for their work. As we know, what we're asking of them is quite difficult. Trying to teach remotely and in person at the same time is some task, and they've done a great job, and we do appreciate all your efforts. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Any motion? Judy? Tom? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented. All in favor? Opposed? There is no old business. We'll move to new business, 12.1. Need a motion to approve the minutes. April 19th, April 26th, and April 22nd special meeting. Martha? Allison? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the minutes for the April 19th, 2021, April 26th, 2021 regular board meetings, and the April 22nd, 2021 special meeting. All in favor? Opposed? 12.2, need a motion to approve agreement for special education services, Hudson River Neuropsychology. Jeremy, Allison. Be resolved, the Board of Education enters into an agreement with Dr. Terry Copens from Hudson River Neuropsychology to conduct neuropsychological evaluations for the Goshen Central School District for the 2021-22 school year as follows. Each assessment, $2,900. Add-on autism screening, an optional service for $100. Add-on educational assessment, K through grade 2, $500. Add-on educational assessment, grade 3 and up, $750. Additional other in-office services, $250 an hour, optional. And additional out-of-office services, $250 to $300 an hour. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the agreement. All in favor? Opposed? 12.3, motion to approve proposal to provide special education legal services from Thomas Strohan, Waxman, Pettigrew, and Mail, LLP. Need a motion? Jeremy? Judy? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the proposal for special education legal services for the 2021-22 school year from Thomas, Strohan, Waxman, Pettigrew, and Mail LLP, attorneys at law, according to the following terms. Up to 90 hours per year, $14,306.25 annual retainer. Above 90 hours per year, $215 an hour for attorney services, $100 an hour for paralegal services. Litigation services and non-retainer matters, $215 an hour for attorney services, $100 an hour for paralegal services. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the proposal. All in favor? Opposed? $12.4, need a motion to authorize the district to participate in cooperative transportation services through Orange Ulster BOCES. Allison? Tom? Whereas Orange Ulster BOCES issued a cooperative bid for student transportation services, BOCES RFP COOP-44-2017, for student transportation for the 2017-18 school year in accordance with the requirements of General Municipal Law 103. And whereas the bids were opened for BOCES RFP COOP-44-2017 on April 3rd, 2017, and subsequently reviewed by BOCES officials. And whereas BOCES confirmed and awarded such bid to provide the aforementioned student transportation services to Quality Bus Service, LLC, on May 11, 2017. And whereas it would be in the best interest of the Goshen Central School District to participate in the cooperative bid, BOCES RFP COOP-44-2017, with other school districts and Orange Ulster BOCES for student transportation for the 2021-22 school year, as provided by New York's Education Law, Section 30514 and Section 156.12 of the Commissioner's Regulations for Transportation of School Students under BOCES RFP COOP-44-2017. And whereas the Goshen Central School District will participate in these cooperative student transportation services for the 2021-22 school year. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows, that the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District authorizes the district to to participate in the cooperative contract for transportation services between Orange Ulster BOCES and Quality Bus Service LLC for the period from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, in accordance with the rates and terms of service referenced in BOCES RFP-COOP-44-2017. During the 2021-22 school year, the cost of transportation to and from all programs serviced by Quality Bus Service shall be in accordance with the rates and terms of service referenced in the cooperative RFP-COOP-44-2017. During the 2021-22 school year, no minimum charge will be applied for monitor or attendance. The board president and/or superintendent of schools is authorized to execute all documents in furtherance of this resolution, subject to attorney review. All in favor? Opposed? I'm gonna remember RFP, COP in my mind tonight.
Take a breath.
Yeah, really. 12.5, I need a motion to approve lead evaluator for teacher certifications. Martha? Alice? Be resolved that pursuant to the requirements of Education Law, Section 3012-D and Part 30-2.9 of the Regents rules, the following person has completed all the required training to be certified by this Board of Education as lead evaluator for classroom teachers. Sarah Jabbar. All in favor? Opposed? 12.6, I need a motion to establish club fund in the high school, extra classroom activity fund for TEDx of the Goshen High School, Goshen Club, Mr. Rediker and Mr. Harris. Tom and Judy. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that an account for the following club be established within the extra classroom activity fund at the high school. Club fund, TEDx of Goshen Club, club faculty club advisors, Jonathan Rediker and Eric Harris. Be it further resolved that the faculty club advisors are authorized to sign disbursement orders, receipts, and otherwise oversee this account in accordance with district policy and the procedures outlined in New York State Education Department guidelines entitled The Safeguarding, Accounting, and Auditing of Extra Classroom Activity Funds. All in favor? Opposed? 12.7, we need to reschedule the May 17th meeting to May 19th. Need a motion? Jeremy? Allison? Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the rescheduling of the Monday, May 17th, 2021 board meeting to Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. All in favor? Opposed?
Okay, real quick on 12.6.
Yeah.
I think it's noted that both teachers are volunteering.
Oh, okay. Good point. Yep. Good mention. Mr. Rediker and Mr. Harris are not receiving a stipend. They're volunteering the time. And on behalf of the Board of Education, thank you. Thank you, Joe. I'd like to propose two addendums. 12.8, approve a proposal from Land for services related to the HVAC systems evaluation and study. This is part of our review that we've accelerated for our air handlers and our air filtration systems in the district. Jeremy? And Martha? I need a motion, Jeremy, Martha? Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the proposal letter from Land Associates Engineering, Planning, Architecture, Surveying, LLP, known as LAN, dated April 20th, 2021, to provide services related to a comprehensive evaluation of the district's existing heating, ventilation, and air conditioning HVAC systems, and options related to modifications and replacements according to the following. Phase 1, HVAC systems evaluation, $13,000. Phase 2, HVAC systems study, $45,000, to be billed hourly, not to exceed the $45,000. Be it further resolved that the board authorizes the board president to execute the proposal letter. A copy of said letter shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting. All in favor? And 12.9, a approval of a tenure appointment for Matthew O'Brien. Need a motion? Judy? And Martha? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the tenure appointment of Matthew O'Brien in the tenure area of general administration effective July 1st, 2021. All in favor? Opposed? Board member issues.
Yeah, I got a couple. Good. I guess there was a form sent out last week to the high school for
Oh, vaccination.
vaccination. How was that put out?
I know that there was a meeting. There was a meeting that was held with our head nurse, Nancy Ellison, and high school principal, with some BOCES officials and also Garnet Hospital, who wanted to make us aware of a program that, and Garnet would handle all the details. Our folks wouldn't do anything other than provide an area for the vaccinations to take place. And that's to the extent of the detail. I know the meeting was held on Wednesday. Not sure, is there anything else?
Unfortunately, I don't have anything to add.
I don't,
So the reason why I'm questioning is I think this form went out just to students and not the parents.
okay.
Basically asking the students if they would get vaccinated.
I think that was the case.
That's a
Yep.
huge mistake on
Yep.
our part.
Yep. And I think it was quickly corrected. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
But I think something, hopefully,
I think an about face was done on that though. Yep.
once again, this is probably the 10th time asking us. We're supposed to be on these emails. We're not
Okay.
getting anything. Again,
Okay.
this could have been probably earlier a little bit if we seen it.
Yep.
Seen this ahead of time.
Got it. Yep.
Also, we had something with, we need that.
Sorry. So we had an email with busing issues for a sporting event. I thought we had a contract with Quality that we wouldn't have this problem. Is that contract still in effect or?
It is, quality is still in effect as far as I know.
Okay.
And from time to time, we've had a number of drivers that are no longer driving for us, that have just quit because of this whole pandemic. And with fall sports, spring sports going on, and a number of events and practices, and they've had a number of times where they, because of lack of drivers, they've had to consolidate routes or runs. So it has caused some delays in people getting home or us getting to places, but it seems to be,
Have we had to cancel any away games due to this?
I'm not aware of it canceling any events.
Can
I could
can we
check.
get a report on it?
Yep. Yep.
That's all I
We'll
got,
look into
Jay.
it.
Thank you. Any other board members? The only one I had was the administrators and the principals, so I think we said that already. Okay, I need a motion to close, hold on. Motion to close the meeting. Judy and Tom, all in favor? Opposed?